This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Looking at Auburn's class in the 2025, I'm not going to sit here and lie to y'all. It's a good recruiting class. It's a really good recruiting class. One thing I'm going to do is I'm always going to be honest to my opinion. And I do like the class, but whenever we dive in and we look at this with some context, with some nuance, this is where I think you have a lot of people on Twitter, which we know is where all reasonable discussions happen, right? Is Twitter. That's the home of
Yes.
reason and non-delusion. But on Twitter, a lot of people are saying Bama should be worried about how Auburn is really heating up in-state recruiting. And if this was year 4 with Kalen DeBoer, I'd be a bit more hesitant, but it's year 1. Hugh and them have a head start on in-state recruiting, but still, Bama number 2 class in the nation. We talk first about a Derek Smith, who I think is a phenomenally gifted prospect. I really do think that he is a guy that's going to turn heads at the next level. We look at the 24/7 Sports Composite, man. He's number 43 in the nation, number 2 athlete in the nation, the number 2 in the state of Alabama. Well, Bama wanted him at defensive back. They really liked him at safety. I don't think it takes a genius, man, to watch his highlights and be like, you can play a lot of different positions, but I think your upside at the defensive back position is unreal. Bama has notoriously wanted a smaller wide receiver class for this cycle, right? They have Lotzier Brooks, they have Caleb Cunningham. They would have taken a Derek Meadows or a Khalil Lockett if they were so inclined to commit to Alabama, because you don't turn away commitments from guys like that. You make things work. But they like Derek Smith, the defensive back. He wanted to play wide receiver. And listen, more power to you, man. I would much rather someone decommit from an Alabama, whoever your favorite team is. I would much rather them decommit and go where they're going to be happier than, let's say, he goes to Alabama. And I'm not saying this would be the case with Derek Smith, but Cody, you're going to understand exactly where I'm going with this. If he goes to Alabama and then realizes once he's on campus, I don't want to be a safety, I want to be a wide receiver, and now he's not 100% bought in, because then that can be infectious. You know, other people might start not being as bought in because they see someone who's not bought in. I'd much rather him decide in high school, I want to be a wide receiver, and then flip. I don't even care if it's to Auburn. I'm happy you came to that conclusion, and I wish you all the success in the world. I think he is a phenomenally talented prospect, but that's the context and nuance there. He wanted to play wide receiver. Auburn is giving him that opportunity to do so. More power to you. And Quan Fegan. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And real fast, it's okay to be second fiddle with the transfer portal. He may get to Auburn and be like, this is not for me. I'm going to go to Bama. I'm going to go to Bama. I'm going to do what they ask, because obviously, teams underperform, overperform. I'm going to go there. Florida, as a Florida fan, and many, not just Florida, many schools have in just a year have flipped kids. Grimsley, one of them that
Yeah. Oh yeah, talented
Florida DB. It was neck and neck, and then all of a sudden, Saban leaves, and he's like, I think I'm just going to go to Florida, because it was second fiddle. He loved everything about that program, but it was just the Saban effect. Maybe if you're second fiddle at Bama, you might still scoop these kids up a year later, and it might be better for you. You might have more needs at that position. You might have attrition there, or guys getting poached in the transfer portal or NFL, or you have the injury bug hits, and you got to have a guy like that. You might need a guy that you came second fiddle to, the bridesmaid. It's not a bad thing in college football anymore to be the second best in recruiting the first year.
No, I think you're 100% right. Thank you everybody for dropping in here and rhyming. Before you go, be sure to check out High Top Sports Recruiting. These are fantastic YouTube channels. Anytime I get the opportunity to work with the professor, anytime I get the opportunity to work with High Top himself, I jump at the opportunity. And as I said, if anybody didn't hear it earlier, Saturdays, I will be featured on some High Top morning shows, and those are a blast. Hell, we came out in costume some last year. You don't want to miss that. Like, it is truly some of the most fun I've had doing content. you need to have your notifications turned on for that. Pam, happy you're here. Thank you for showing up. As always, thank you all for the support. No, I love that point, man. I really do. College football has changed drastically, and it changes more every single year. And with the transfer portal, as long as like if a Derek Smith goes to Auburn, my only hope is that the staff, whenever they got that call, their reaction was, "Hey, man, whatever is best for you. We wish you the best. Congratulations, and you got a home here. If things don't work, you got a home here." You want to know why I say that? Because that's what Nick Saban said to Damani Jackson. When Damani Jackson was a silent commit to Alabama, he ended up flipping that commitment when nobody knew he was committed to USC, calls Nick Saban, and Nick Saban says, "Hey, I'm happy for you. If that's where you feel like you need to be, if that's where you feel called, by all means, go to USC. But know this, you always have a home here." He hits the transfer portal. Where does he go? Alabama. And then, I don't know if you saw the story, some of the people were calling him when Saban retired. And they were like, "Hey, are you going to stick around?" And he's like, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm here," right? Like, I'm no Saban, how the brand of Alabama, I'm here. So I really love that point about the transfer portal because it's 100% true. But that's Derek Smith. You get into Anquan Fegans, another very talented prospect. Bama just never was really in this battle, right? That was one that Auburn has looked good at. And that's one that's just like, okay, yeah, good win for Auburn, no doubt about it. You go to Jared Smith, another one that Bama, I don't think that there was a lot of movement Bama's way for Jared Smith. Now, we do have to acknowledge that that edge position for Alabama is absurdly loaded. Keon Keeley having a lot of time in front of him, moving from that Wolf to Bandit in the new defense. But even then, you look at that Wolf position, you have a Yanze Pierre, who is a 5-star freshman last year. You have a Ross, who is going to be a freshman this year. You have Noah Carter, who's a freshman this year. You have Quay Rusaw, who you can play him there. You can play him at stand-up linebacker. A lot of versatility. You got a lot of young talent at that edge rush position, and that's why I don't think Bama has been super pressed about it. And Bama goes to Ohio and gets a Justin Hill, who is a top 75 ranked prospect in the nation. And if I'm not mistaken, might actually be Jared Smith is 57, Justin Hill's 56, right? So they're very talented, both of them.
Yeah. Ladies and gents, it's football time, which also means it's betting time. Whether betting lines, over-unders, right, pick'ems, what have you. The best place to do it is a link in the description at BetUS. And for your first 3 deposits, you get back 125% up to $2,000. They're actually just giving money away. And I'm telling you right now, their lines are incredible for everyone to win. They've got overs and unders that are making me scratch my head going, are they sure they want to do this? 4.5 on Florida. They got 10.5 on Oregon. Fantastic stuff. You guys want to be sure to check that thing out. So link is in the description. Let's get back to the content here. And be sure to like and subscribe too if you can.
Eric Winters is another name that I don't know how much Alabama has been involved in that battle. Now, safety is a position where I'm really interested to see where they pivot because of Derek Smith flipping. They wanted him at safety. He wanted to play wide receiver. So that's going to be a call that you have to answer. But I'm not sure that they were ever just super pushing on Winters because they had Derek Smith and because they got a Cam Howard and a King Mack in the transfer portal at that safety position, along with the Keon Sabb, who could be there 1 year, but I think will probably be there 2 years to really build out his draft grade. Then you got a Red Morgan. You got a Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. Think about that one for a second, man. Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. is at Bama now. His dad played at Alabama, what seemed like yesterday, and now son is there and really is showing some flashes. So that safety position, they'll answer, but I'm not sure where. Zion Grady at Ohio State. Obviously, Auburn didn't win that battle, but he was a guy that the last staff was really in on. He goes to Ohio State, and I'm actually interested in seeing who his lead recruiter is, because if it's Larry Johnson. What are you going to do, man? Like, Larry Johnson's that guy. He really is. And then Malik Autry. Now, out of all of the guys we've talked about thus far, man, Malik Autry is the one that I wish Bama would send the full court press on this young man. I think he's really, really gifted. Love his game, but I just don't know that Bama has sent that full court press the way Auburn has. And I love his game. So that's another big win for them. And then the last guy that we can talk about that flipped from Bama to Auburn to Bama back to Auburn is Antonio Coleman. And listen, kind of the same thing with Derek Smith, right? Except with Antonio Coleman, This is your fourth flip.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's getting odd.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being young and being indecisive. We've all been there.
It's the biggest decision of his life at 18 years old. You know, brain's not fully developed. That thing don't develop. We know it doesn't develop till like what,
I'm
25?
29 and it's still not developed. So
Yeah,
hey,
yeah. Yeah, so we get it, but he needs to lock something in. I will ask this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 inside the national 100 for Auburn out of Alabama. This might be one of the better classes to actually come out of Alabama. Now, if Saban was still there, it's a what if. How many of these guys that does Auburn probably not get? 3 or 4 of them, truthfully, because Saban had that state locked down. And I think there's going to be some wait and sees for some kids. I think there's some kids probably on the fence. They're going to wait and see if Bama still rolls like they usually do. There might be some flips late, and I really think that truthfully, I think that that they're just waiting and seeing. They're saying, yeah, we're committed now to get our name somewhere, to get into a spot. But you know, if Bama rolls and you know, wins a national championship, beats Georgia, or makes the playoffs, which they can do, I think there's going to be some flips.
Yeah, to answer your question about how many of these guys would still be committed, if Derek Smith decided he wanted to play wide receiver, he probably still would have flipped if it was the same thing with that staff where it's like, hey, we really like you at safety.
Gotcha.
He probably still would have flipped. And I really do mean this, right? Like, I am so high on Derek Smith. That doesn't change just because he's at Auburn. I mean, I made a whole video outlining about how, hey, this guy could push 5-star territory. I really do believe he's that talented. But I would much rather you flip somewhere. I don't care where it is. It could have been UNT for all I care. As long as you decide like, hey, I actually don't want to play this position. I really would be happier playing this. By all means, man, I want you as bought in wherever you are as you can be, because you talked about the transfer portal earlier, man. You're probably a little bit less likely to transfer if you are happier playing a position that you want to play, which is going to lead to you being more bought in, more energetic. If he would have came to Bama and the whole time he's like, man, I really want to play wide receiver, but that's a pretty loaded wide receiver room. They want me at safety. I'm going to get out of here, right? Like, I just don't want that experience, right? I don't want anybody who's not bought in. And
Yeah,
that's not
for
negative.
sure. It's like being in accounting and you really want to be in sales.
Yeah.
As a job, right?
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.